Sarah Waley, welcome to People Legal. My God, what an amazing view you've got there.
I know, isn't it lovely? It's definitely fireworks material.
Yeah, I know. Like looking out the window there's a bridge, there's anyway.
Fabulous.
I mean, yeah, I guess enough for me, the Google location things and the scenery and things. But our audience would love to hear more about you and what who you are, what you've done, how you got here, and yeah.
Thank you. So my name's Sarah Waley. I came to Australia in the year 2000. Having grown up in the UK, I had done a French and German degree. So when I arrived in Sydney, I needed to look for opportunities. I had a background in hospitality, which meant that I was looking in kind of sales, marketing, those types of positions. And my first position was actually for a business called Mouse Business.
And that's where I know you from. Yes, that's right. Good old Mouse.
And Mouse was, so I used to look after sales of their software product.
Yes.
Particularly the coaching network. And then Mouse was acquired by Walters Kluwer, CCH Australia. So I became the sales project manager for one of their first launches of software products. So that was in 2005. So looked after putting together all of the materials and helping all of the sales team basically present products to their accountants and legal providers. Following that, so I was there, then started my own business, did a bit of work with you, I think, in translating software products.
Yeah, back in DocScorp days.
Yeah, back in DocScorp days, English to French and English to German. And then went into PKF, where I was their head of national marketing and business development for 6 years. And PKF actually took on the BDO brand just as I was leaving. So they became part of the BDO network, and I helped PKF International at that stage. I'd been over a couple of times to do presentations on their account management training to both Lisbon and Vietnam. And I'd met a number of the PKF International guys and actually helped them sell the brand into some of the firms that would then take it up. I don't think I actually did the presentation to the business that took the brand, but anyway. And then started Ideas in Practice. So started Ideas in Practice, and my first client was Turks.
Wow.
So this was over 13 years ago now. So I was doing brand consulting for Turks, helping with things like the tagline and the brand asset, and then came in-house as head of clients and markets. So I've been doing that for the last 12 years, took a couple of years out to relaunch my business. And so I do work with Turks as head of clients and markets, and I also work with accounting firms.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting, actually.
What a varied career. So, I'm going to pick your brains today all about brand, about professional services and all those wonderful things, because I know we've had some discussions previously in good old Carlingford Court, of all places, about brand and why it's important. But I guess tell us more about Turks.
So Turks is a insurance and commercial law firm. So we work with top insurers, a number of different organisations, and the firm's got about 260 staff and 39 partners, and it's close to tripled over the past 10, 15 years in size. So we've got offices in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Newcastle, and operate across all jurisdictions in Australia. So it's a very varied client base, but, it's a business-to-business environment, and one that I've really enjoyed working with very smart people who, know their industry niche and do what they do very well.
It's interesting. I mean, that kind of growth, what fuels that kind of growth? Like, what is it that actually makes that growth happen?
I think a combination of having really good people, really good systems, and really good clients. I think if you put those three things together, it's probably the best combination, and great leadership. Yeah,
amazing story. Absolutely amazing story for an Aussie firm. And I guess, just leaning into that discussion we've actually had, I guess brand is a very important part of any firm's growth, professional services particularly.
Absolutely. And I think not enough is done really where brand is concerned, in the sense that, there is an assumption that perhaps brand is the logo or, the colour system that you use. And it's so much more than that. It's everything associated with the firm. It's the the way we pick up the phone. It's the way that someone feels when they deal with somebody from Turks or a professional services firm. It's everything from, how consistent you are in terms of delivery, the relationships you have. It's everything attached to the business. And I think that also then comes back to the promise that you make to the world. If you make a promise to, the brand is really a promise. So if you say you're going to be diligent, reliable, accessible, you have to be able to deliver on that. And I think the brand values is where they come into play, and really making sure that the team behind the service understands what has been promised and is able to deliver on that.
And I guess the personal brand of each person in that, I guess, is there's their own personal brand is alignment to the corporate brand as well. So there's that piece as well. I guess, I'm really interested in sort of digging down on the personal brand side of things, because I think to myself, having been in professional services myself and currently in that sort of space, it's a really, really interesting area where I think it can make or break a business. So why is brand a superpower, personal brand a superpower?
Well, I think the reality is in the world. So I spend a lot of time with technically brilliant people, have for the past 20 years, people who know their subject matter incredibly well. And there are 90,000, solicitors out there as we speak, all vying for attention from clients, all wanting to stand out. And I think it's very hard to do that unless you have a very clear understanding of the value you offer, and then how to position that value in a way that resonates with your target market. So I think the difference in professional services is that, we are the product. Every single one of us is the product. Yeah. And, it's important for us to understand the value we bring and to be able to build strong relationships. And generally, I call it the good, the bad, and the tumbleweeds,
Okay.
In terms of, generally people will buy from people they know, they like, and they trust. Yep. That's a known fact across, it's why people are used to sell products. Yep. George Foreman is a really good example of that.
Oh yeah, okay? Absolutely.
If you Google George Foreman, it will come up with a grill. And the fact is that he was used because he was a personality that people liked, admired at the time that he was, selected to do the marketing for that product. People engage with people. So when we are selling services, you're actually buying an individual. And so the good, the bad, and the tumbleweeds is generally the bad is you're known, but you're not liked. So people know you to be difficult. They don't really want to do business with you. So yes, you've got brand awareness. Yes, people have heard of you, but in fact don't want to work with you. That's not ideal.
Yeah.
Good is they love working with you. They've heard of you. You've got all of the factors that would make them choose you as a service provider. Tumbleweeds is kind of that middle ground where you're not known. So therefore, why is anyone going to want to work with someone who is not known, doesn't have that kind of credibility behind them? So I think when it comes to personal brand, it's about how do you become known by the right people and resonate with the right people and do business with the right people. The right people based on your attributes.
So, just breaking that down, if I'm a to use the term tumbleweed, right? So if I'm actually a person that's really, really technically, strong, I know my stuff, but I want to get known, I want to build my own personal brand. What does that look like? What have they got to do?
Well, look, I think with all of these things, you can absolutely wing it. There is no problem with that, but I do see a problem with that. I think the problem there is that you aren't necessarily clear on what your intentions are. I think if you use the kind of 4C brand framework, and some people talk about it as C's or C's, for me, it's about clarity. And that clarity is, why am I doing what I do? So quite often you will speak to lawyers who say, I'm an IP lawyer, or I'm a workplace lawyer, or I'm an insurance lawyer. That's absolutely fine. That's what you do, but that's not who you are. So having clarity around why you exist. So it might be, well, actually, I really enjoy helping businesses to protect their intellectual property. I really enjoy helping businesses to solve workplace issues. That kind of why is a lot more compelling. So clarity is key, and finding out, or, for me, personal brand is what would say reputation is what people say about you.
Yes.
And this is about how do you want to craft what people say about you when you're not in the room. So an example of that would be, you would think about, well, how do I want to be described? What are some of the attributes, or, what is the outcome that I want to achieve? So I really feel very passionately about helping business owners to solve legal issues. How do I do that? Well, I help them deal with particular types of issues that are very difficult to deal with. That is, niche areas, IP. What do I actually do? Well, I provide legal services. So it's kind of almost flipping it. And I really like Simon Sinek for that reason, that he talks about that start with why and the golden circle, which is you sell from the inside out. That is, you sell the emotion and the feeling that you're trying to get across before you sell what you.
It's interesting. So breaking this down into a small law firm where you've actually got a small law firm wants to promote themselves and get the story out there and build their personal brand. I mean, what practical tips and advice would you give, a partner in one of those law firms that want to push themselves out there?
Well, so once you've got clarity, I think you need to really then look at what is your community. So the 4 C's are actually clarity, congruence, that is authenticity, making sure that you can deliver on what you are, saying you can. And then community. Are the people that I'm talking to the types of people that I really want to be talking to? So there is that saying, fish where the fish are. So, making sure that your message and your marketing, your branding is done with people who are really going to, where it's going to resonate. And then the final C is content. What kind of content do you put out there that engages with your audience? Be that through speaking opportunities, be that through thought leadership articles, newsletters, interviews that you do, and the like. And when you're putting content out there, are you thinking about it from the perspective of how is this going to help my client, not how is it going to, how is it going to make the spotlight shine on me?
So being client focused, and it sounds like the whole content, I guess, so putting this all together, I mean, what people use LinkedIn a lot, but I haven't, it's interesting because you look at LinkedIn and you look at the profiles that people got LinkedIn. And I mean, I think that's like your shop window. Yeah. That's your brand shop window. It's a fantastic place to go and find people and look at, what they're doing and check people out on there. I mean, and you see some professional services firms, they're just not really making me feel great about it. I don't resonate. They do amazing work, I'm sure, but it's just not resonating with me. So I guess, is that the place that you do a lot of your branding work on, or is that a place where people can do their branding work to make themselves better?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think LinkedIn is a great platform for, a number of reasons. I think it's loud though. And I think that people need to use it a little bit more effectively. And by that, I mean, it's not a tick the box. So I've posted this and this, to basically create, it's not we shouldn't use it as a shouty.
Yeah.
It's about branding really isn't about boasting, and ideally out of 20 posts that you do, 19 should be about something of relevance to your client or your target market. One might be about yourself. Now that's hard to do, but I think the focus, if you come back to, and I love this formula that David Maister had, which talks about the ingredients for trust and how you build trust. And I speak to partners that I deal with a lot about this, which is this idea of credibility. So I know what I'm talking about, my knowledge, my in-depth knowledge of the law, which quite often is a given. Reliability. So that is, I will do what I say I will do. With intimacy, that is, you will enjoy working with me, over low self-orientation. So that is, the focus isn't on me, the focus is on you as a client, understanding your needs, all of those things. If you can use LinkedIn as a way of demonstrating that you know what you're talking about, that, you are a reliable and trusted provider, that you let a bit of your personality show. That is, you don't stick to this model. And this is where AI is a little bit concerned nowadays, because it creates one voice. And I actually think authenticity is going to be the thing that shines through from this. I think people will end up preferring bullet points to long-winded, flowery sentences, which have been written by AI. But then if you can make your content tailored to the client, what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they need. And I suppose I come back to your point. You talked about professional services firm that may not resonate with you. My first question is, should they resonate with you? There are a lot of companies that don't want you as their target market. The people who have really got it right are the ones that know who they're targeting, have worked out whether you are or are not their target, and then put themselves in front of people that they do want to know.
It sort of sounds like the content side of things is a real key part of any professional services person's armory or weapons they can use to build their brand.
Yes, absolutely. And I think particularly when so much is happening, people are looking for a voice to trust. And I think content, provided done properly and provided you use all of the visuals attached, gone are the days of a 7-page newsletter. It just doesn't resonate anymore. People don't have time. If you can try to, one of the great things that I find about being in marketing and branding is being able to convert what might be quite a boring topic or presentation into something that's visually engaging, different media, to connect with. And I think that's, again, it all comes back to communication, which is why when I look back to my, qualifications in languages, I've actually found languages really, really useful, because from an editing standpoint, from a learning how to communicate in a different language, it's all about the nonverbal cues. It's about how do you articulate things using words that are going to resonate with that person. So it's very much about that two-way combination.
I think it's interesting because what you see is some people throw write me an article on XYZ into ChatGPT or another AI engine, and it spits out some sort of article, and you see it on LinkedIn, and you see it other places as well. In these tough times, blah 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 blah, and you can just see it's an AI written piece of content's written, and basically it's not really showing authenticity. It's not really showing connection with the audience at all. It's basically spewing a bunch of facts that you could kind of put together from your own research.
Absolutely.
It's I think authentic content that's being guided the right way, and having a strategy around that's actually key.
Well, I think having an opinion as well is quite critical nowadays. And I was recently listening to a discussion around how it's not about facts anymore. It's not about facts. It's actually about the messenger. So people don't care so much and will not necessarily put much stock in fact. And I think that a lot of that is because of social media, the sources and whether things are true or not. They actually put the weight on the messenger, the person who is providing those facts and that information, which actually then talks to the importance of having an opinion. People want to hear opinions because anything else can be just produced from a machine. And in today's environment, I think people are more and more keen to understand how people are thinking, how people are feeling against that backdrop.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess there's some people who are a little bit shy about providing opinions, and I guess I think, well, it's an opinion. I shouldn't put that out there and things.
Absolutely.
But I guess it's different ways, different lenses to look at the world, isn't it? Really, that's what an opinion is.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think you have to be incredibly divisive either. I don't think you have to be. I think what you can do is, for example, on LinkedIn, there will be a number of different information pieces that you could share or you could comment on without necessarily holding yourself out to be one way or the other. You're sharing other people's content and maybe providing a couple of comments about it that might at least stop somebody else from having to spend 20 minutes reading through an article. Maybe you give a couple of summary points and what you found interesting. That in itself isn't even an opinion, it's your commentary. And that, I think, helps to engage you with your audience. The other thing, of course, with LinkedIn, which is great, is the fact that because you are sharing to your network, and if they engage with that, they share to their network. You've got these huge networks available to you, and provided you're putting out content that is relevant and authentic, then it will generally it will help you become top of mind for people who may, for whom you may not have been.
At what size do you think a marketing function or a BD function for a professional services comes relevant?
Well, it's a really interesting question because I work with a lot of smaller firms and larger. I would say, I think once you get to it depends. If you want to be smart and sophisticated in your marketing, then, you could have 5 or 10 people in your business if you want to do it properly. I think setting it up properly in the first place is really important. So for me, it's not so much the size of the business, it's the appetite for whether you really want to go out to market, whether you want to target, whether you are going to, word of mouth referral is the best way of marketing.
Totally.
But I think to depend on that alone is risky. I think you can have that alongside a number of other tools that are proven to work.
I mean, I've heard people use strategy like lead magnets and things like that as well. So they've written opinion pieces, they've written sort of little books on doing business in Australia, for example, and how to do it and all the ins and outs and things. And people register for that or go to events and that kind of thing. Do you think lead magnets and those kind of things work?
Look, I think they do. I just think you've got to be very targeted with, if you think about a lot of certainly in the area that I'm in, which is these kind of, commercial law firms, where it's not just about volume, it's about quality connections, and it's about having clients that use you again and again, and where you really build that relationship. It's actually more about strategic targeting. That is, who do I want to target in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? And what do I want my business to look like in, 3-5 years time? And how do I build that? Starting from there, how do I build backwards to say, who should I be targeting? What kind of clients, do I need to pivot some of our services? Do we provide everything that the client needs? And, I do a lot of interviews for clients where I go out and, ask the client what they want from a law firm. And, it's interesting to bring that feedback back, because sometimes what we do is, as lawyers, or as, we're so busy working on the matters that we don't necessarily have that. We don't get the chance to really talk about themes and ways that the relationship could be improved. And certainly I've done that with some accounting firms, and that's been a really eye-opening exercise.
You actually, so with the accounting firms you work with, you'll actually go to their clients and actually ask what things they could do better, or how, what's the relationship like and things.
Absolutely. So I've done about 150 of them now over time.
Wow.
And they're they're great for a marketer, because in fact, it's like anything, you start to speak in the same language that your clients speak in, right? Because you spend a lot of time hearing the way that clients speak about what they're looking for and all of those things. And so I think that then plays out in all of the materials that you put together, etc. So from a personal perspective, I find it absolutely critical. And I would say every marketing person, get into the voice of the client is really important. I would say from the firm's perspective, it's a huge benefit to hear directly from a client when you're, quite often the client hasn't really even thought about this stuff until they're sitting with somebody who is not involved in the account, asking questions that are a little bit more open-ended, that don't actually relate to the technical subject, more about service delivery and what can we do to improve, what have we been doing that's great. And it's a good opportunity to kind of remind the client of what you do as well and all the value you bring.
Yeah, very, very valuable. I can imagine that would be a valuable exercise for any accounting firm or professional services firm to run.
Absolutely.
Going to ask you one last question, Sarah. So if I was setting up if I was actually a smaller professional services firm, I'm sorry I'm focusing on smaller ones, but I think there's a lot of smaller firms in Australia and across the world, which to actually address. What are the top 3 things you might tell them so they can actually, I guess, change things, bring more business in, bring more clients in, bring more matters in?
Well, there are so many different things, right? You could, so some of it's about how do you create top of mind awareness? How do you, a lot of it, I would say the top tip would be understand who you're targeting and understand what they need. And once you've done that, understand what you offer. Package that up in such a way that it is attractive and it resonates with the client or your target client. And I would say marketing that you do now will impact you 6 months down the line. So this kind of quick win, I think having a sustainable plan that is smart, bang for your buck and all of those things, because you could spend time on everything. And really, we don't have infinite time to be able to spend on marketing and business development. So whatever you do, make it measurable, make it effective, and make it well thought out.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. If people want to find out more about some of your insights and ideas and things, we'll share some links into the bio and share some.
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that's brilliant.
Wherever I can help.
Sarah, thank you very much for today. Appreciate it. Thank you. Brilliant.
Thank you.